in a new era, the deepest technological revolution in human history.
Good morning, everyone. It doesn't get better than this, does it? We are here at MWC, and private 5G has been the hot topic of the show. Now, we have been here already a few days, so plenty of meetings, a lot of sales conversations, lots of tapas, and an extremely productive MWC for everyone, I assume. And now we're here to answer the key question that everyone has been thinking for the last few days. Are private networks overhyped? Everyone is talking about them. There has been a lot of news announcements, acquisitions, new partnerships, new deployments. But is this the key opportunity? People love to say the 5G killer use case. But is this the real opportunity for telcos and their partners to really crack the enterprise space? Now, I'm joined today by some excellent panelists, and I would like to invite them on stage. So Caroline, Shahid, Divya, please join me on stage so we can get started to know our panelists and then to answer the key questions that everyone is thinking about. Shahid? Thank you. Hi. Hi. So, please take a seat. So, let's get started to get some introduction from you guys, and I think I always prefer when the panelists are introducing themselves because they can highlight whatever they want, and the audience can get a clear idea of what you guys are working on, strengths, weaknesses, and everything, so to speak. So, Shahid, maybe let's get started with you. Can you please introduce yourself briefly to the audience?
Yes, this is Shahid Ahmed. I'm with NTT. I lead up our new ventures and innovation group.
Divya? Mike, please.
I'm Divya Ghai Wakankar. I'm from Belgium, Brussels, part of BICS, which is an international connectivity and roaming provider.
And I'm Caroline Chan. I'm with the Intel Corporation. I'm part of the network and edge group with a keen focusing on 5G monetization, obviously. Hopefully we'll discuss that private networks is a key component of that. Very nice to meet you all.
Okay, fantastic. Just to set the scene a little bit. I mean, the question is like, are private networks overhyped? And I'm going to quickly run a yes or no type of question for you guys. Are private networks overhyped? Yes or no?
No.
I'm neutral, but I will say a bit overhyped at the moment.
Bit overhyped, Caroline?
No, there's a lot of potential, and we'll prove you why it's not overhyped in the next 38 minutes.
Fantastic. I will take a little bit the role of the devil's advocate, so I'm going to try to say that they are a little bit overhyped, although that's the area that I'm covering, so maybe a little biased there. But audience, what do you think? Are private networks overhyped? Can you lift your hand if you think they are? I think most people think that that's the real deal, so let's see. Okay, so can you please explain to me why they're not overhyped, why they are such a key opportunity going forward? Shahid?
Well, I mean, there's several reasons, but as far as NTT is concerned and has the experience to demonstrate that, we're working on deployments production systems at the moment. Our challenges are less around whether private 5G is real or not. It's more around are devices available, what kind of spectrum could we leverage, and frankly, how do we deploy this in a very simple, efficient manner for CIOs all over the place? So our challenges are more around implementation, deployments, production, management of the network itself, as opposed to answering whether it's real or not.
Okay, so the need is there, and you guys are are doing the work, are getting there. Divya, you were less sure about this opportunity compared to the other panelists. Can you please explain your answer to us?
No, I am sold out on the technology side. There's no doubt about it, right? And you can see we are in the value chain, the panelists here. And I'm in the chain very close to the implementation and the usage side. So you can see they are ready. We are getting ready. But we see that the use cases are not there yet, right? So the technology is great. We have been in the private networks for a long time now. Right now, it's converged solutions that are getting placed, right? 4G, LTE, they are used for a long time now, right? There are private networks today. 5G is coming up. It's being used in the labs for the private networks. There are trials ongoing. We are also part of those trials, right? But I would really like to see the use cases. I am willing for, and I'm looking forward to, talking to the system integrators, the OEMs. We are in discussions with them to figure out how can we help them as a whole ecosystem, right? From the manufacturers to the OEMs and to the, enterprise customers. What role should we play to help them out in this value chain? So it's all about that at the moment. And we are willing to help them and ready to do it. It's ready. Let's go for it.
Okay, so it's the opportunities there, is just timing. We still need a little bit more development.
Exactly. We talked about it as well a couple of minutes ago, right? That there are some global situations which have caused an impact, I think, and that's my personal opinion about it. For example, the war, COVID situation has also kind of brought down, the opportunity of devices getting ready, right? On the IoT side, the consumer devices are getting there, right? But we are talking about the industrial IoT here. Yeah. But we are getting there. It's taking a bit longer.
Yeah, we're getting there. Of course, it's not a vacuum. Caroline, you were like really 100%.
Adamantly says not overhyped.
So this is the big opportunity. Why you're so confident? And I'm skeptical, so I need to convince myself and only a few people in the audience.
I think that the question is for any of us, and myself especially, being in the industry for a long time, there is the demand will drive a solution. There's absolute demand for this because 5G has now lived up to his promise. 5G serving at least in the United States, in the consumer market well, but if you ask anyone, my children included, what's the difference between your LTE phone or your 4G phone, 5G phone? You know what they tell me? It's the camera. How great the camera, the iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy is. It has nothing to do with 5G. So how do we justify the investment we have made so far into this new technology if we don't expand its market reach? So that's number one. Economic will determine the outcome. I think when you say overhyped, the market is a little chaos right now. There's many different approaches people taking it. SI approach, like Shahin mentioned, I think you guys are probably the closest to what things need to happen. You have the hyperscalers that are coming in. You have the traditional TAMs like Ericsson, Nokia, and then you have a lot of the Wi-Fi operators like, I say Cisco and Aruba in there. And then you also have enterprises. They want to do this on their own. So the approach to the market approach is chaotic, but doesn't mean it's overhyped. Meaning that we are in the process of sorting things out. There might not even be one approach. There might be multiple approaches. So for example, Intel is currently building a lot of factories here in Europe and the United States. We are helping our factory managers and our CIOs to put out RFIs. It's beyond conclusion that they need private networks. We're never going to put our sensitive production data in the public network. That's just not, it's a no-go. And Wi-Fi meets a lot of the requirements, but doesn't meet the requirement of anything latency, very sensitive to the latency, anything that you have to have a guaranteed SLA. Probably maybe, I'm going to just state my net. I would say that Wi-Fi meets 75% of things, and you need 25% need a spectrum for that. So if you combine these two, and you look at the people that are sitting here, I would say the approach today, we sorted it out. The implementation, we're working through it. But the opportunities are real. When there's opportunity, when there's a demand, all of us will figure a way out to fulfill it. In fact, we are so confident of that is, this used to be an incubation, now it's a P&L business. So that's just, I mean, that's nothing saying more real is than money, right? So
that's it. So the demand is clearly there. Of course, there are different structures in place, and I like that you touched about different companies addressing the market differently, SIs, hyperscalers, telcos, vendors. Some will win, some will lose, but that's normally in the market. I did say I was going to take the devil's advocate role. So yes, some enterprises need private networks, some enterprises need private 5G. Unfortunately, not all of them. Cost seems to still be an issue. The real need for 5G versus LTE seems more dictated by spectrum availability than other things. But I agree, it's a great opportunity, and the fact that everyone is pushing in that direction, that people are investing, are making acquisition in the space, as HP recently acquired Afternet, that's a good example of that, clearly shows that there is demand, and there is a big opportunity ahead of us. Now, if we then switch and start digging a little bit deeper, Shade, let's start with you again. Why is NTT a key player in this market? What gives you the right to play, in a sense? Are you creating something new? And I know that you guys have been looking a lot at the edge, and I think that IT, OT, and telecom edge is an area that is still absolutely open, that can be captured by any players, and I believe that you guys have that intention. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah. Let me first address, if I can, around use cases and the business case for private networks. So from the implementations and experience we've had with a number of deployments, there's really two emerging business cases or use cases. These two things are converging now. The first one is that a number of factory operators are looking at removing cabling and wiring to have a very flexible operating model inside the factory. And so when you think about communications infrastructure and the factory floor, it's a big deal to have cables and wires running across the factory. If Zach was here, he would tell you at Schneider Electric, I mean, that was the most compelling reason why they wanted to put private networks in there. And if you think about it, if you have a 100 million square feet warehouse or factory, how many access points will you put in there? 5,000, 6,000 to cover that area? That requires a lot of blue cables, a lot of Cat6 infrastructure, and that's not only expensive, but it's not sustainable, and it's not flexible. Versus you put a private network, and you're done with a handful of access points. So that's one of the main compelling reasons, from our experience working with industrial companies, manufacturing companies, mining operations, that cabling and wiring is a compelling event for them. The second one is around reliability and really coverage, and that's mainly outside the plant as opposed to inside. AGVs, these AGVs require consistent and persistent coverage as they're moving across the factory floor. And again, something like a private network with ubiquitous coverage, you've got 6, 7 access points covering a big area, can do the trick. So, there's a number of different use cases, of course, whether it's AGVs, machine vision, even walkie-talkies, radios being replaced by private networks. So there's a number of different things, but really the business case around cabling, wiring, reliability, coverage, as well as security is something these customers are looking for. Now, why NTT? A number of our industrial clients are simply saying, look, we want this, but it's complex. Cellular, it's still a cellular network.
Yes.
Right? And it requires, and it's a breathing network, right? It's always changing. It's not like it's a Ethernet or even Wi-Fi network where, you know, it's pretty much fixed. So, you know, we offer a turnkey end-to-end managed service offer to these customers. We take the pain out of managing a complex, sophisticated network for them. So that's our value proposition.
Interesting. There are some players that say, or they want to tell the market that private networks can be very simple. So
yeah, I mean, and you know what?
Different approaches, I guess.
Well, you know, we look at it through two lenses. You can have a telco-based private 5G network or a CIO-centric enterprise-first private network. We look at the enterprise-first CIO-centric. Yes, it's a Meraki-style management system, but it's still a cellular network. You still have to do site design, coverage analysis before you put up the access points. One of the big reasons why some of these customers are looking at private networks is because this network is uplink delimited, meaning, you know, companies and use cases, they put data up. And if you look at a traditional cellular network, is downlink delimited, meaning, you know, we download things, we're watching YouTubes, but most private enterprise use cases are uplink.
Okay, so there is that complexity, and I agree with that. Now Divya, let's move on to you. What's your right to play in the market? What do you want to achieve? And I know that you guys are expert when it comes to the roaming part of the ecosystem. Is that a big opportunity developing there?
Yeah, I'll talk about the use case that we see in Europe, actually. So, you know, the use cases that we see and where we are kind of helping our customers are into the public safety quite a lot, right? In the Western side, we see that the countries are looking into how they can have a secure network. So security is a paramount, you know, requirement there. Scalability is there. Reliability of the network is very important. And the assets will move from one place to another. So that's also a very important and critical requirement that we see from the public safety side. In addition to that, we see other industries like automotive. That's another one where the logistics or the cars are going in and coming out of the private network. So these use cases have an issue at the moment. So that's a very, you know, there's a problem that they go out and they have to come in, and they have to come in the private network. And as BICS being a leader in the roaming service provider, right? We are a connectivity provider. We carry 50% of the world roaming data around the world today. So we have the solutions built for the telcos, right? We help them in bridging their roaming agreements. We help them carrying their data around the world today. So we have built a solution on top of our legacy, on top of our foundation that we offer to telco operators, that we can help the private network assets to move out of the private to public networks and come back to private network seamlessly without any issue. So you can call it like an international travel passport for connected devices, right? So we provide them the passport. We help them with either they can use our SIM cards or they can have their own, right? We offer a multi-IMSI solution, so we have sponsors there. We have all types of agreement with operators, including 5G agreements now. So it's a seamless move between private and public. And we see these assets are kind of, and we are in trial in some of the use cases there, right? So it's a very niche problem where we are helping the industry to solve that, and we believe that this is going to take a next step into the market, right? To get the whole use cases being there.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it is quite interesting because when I see the market, and the market is maturing, so before it was like a trial POC, now we have enterprises that are deploying one site, multiple sites, and particularly where I'm thinking about those multiple sites and you need connectivity in and out, there is a clear opportunity
So
there.
for that, we have a hubbing solution. So all private networks, if you have multi-site private network, we can bring them together into a hubbing solution so that you do not have to replicate your core services, right? You can use the same core services, and we can help you bridge them together, right? So that's also a solution offering that we have in the market. We are trying to help, in the value chain with our service offering to make sure that we have the full implementation there. But there's a critical obstacle that we face is there are different players, right? As Caroline rightly mentioned, there are hyperscalers, there are system integrators, there are vendors. Some vendors have a lock-in there. So in order to make sure that we are working with each player in the value chain to make sure that the solution has a full picture there, right? So we can offer the full solution offering. And I would really look forward to have, there are multiple entry points, and the pie is big, right? We have to make sure that we have customized solution offering, and we can even have, off-the-shelf offering that we can provide to the enterprise customers.
Absolutely. You mentioned multiple players, and Cara, I know you guys are doing a lot to help the ecosystem, to foster the ecosystem for private networks. So is that the main sort of right to play that you guys have in this market, or what is your objectives? Why you are such a key ingredient in private networks?
So Intel has the advantage that we are in two businesses. One is the embedded business, which is now our IoT verticals, industrial, retail, healthcare, and so on. So those are the application, the vertical side, we have the knowledge there. Then the other side is the network business. We today, over 90% of the core network in the world runs on Intel, and we have more than 40% of the RAN network. So from the technology, think about silicon, software side, plus on the network, these are typically public networks and networking software. And then you have the vertical side. Now we combine both, and that I would say that's the perfect Venn diagram for private networks. Private networks provide connectivity, but it needs the enterprise application, the enterprise know-how, and the reach to the enterprise. So combine those together, it makes us a ambitious player in this market. And then the second thing that you mentioned is ecosystem. So Intel is known to build ecosystem, and this is an ecosystem play. It takes a village. But in the public network side, you have I know exactly who I'm selling to. Right? And then they know exactly who they are selling to. You just name all the operators in the world. But this is much more complex. You have retail, you have healthcare, you have cities, you have industrial. And there is I think Divya, you mentioned a customized solution. Majority of the solution, I would say, we either make it simple, make it horizontal, and then maybe 20% you can do customization and tweak on top of it. And that calls for API, that calls for software developers. We aim to partner with everyone here to bring that together. For example, we're part of the 5G AA for the automakers. We have the 5G ACIA for the industrial. So we join a lot of consortium. We contribute to the consortium in the hope that we reach more of a horizontal solution. You can't customize for every single enterprise out there. So we do see this as our mission to fulfill and increase the uptake of our silicon and software. And we also see that this is a bridge to take from 5G to fulfill its beyond eMBB, and then a path forward to beyond 5G.
And it's interesting, so you mentioned a couple of alliances, and particularly when I'm thinking the industrial vendor ecosystem, so the 5G ACA, that vendor ecosystem is one that has never really been engaged before by the telecoms ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it's a different type of ecosystem, they have different technology, terminologies, and that gap needs to be bridged in order for the market to be successful.
We speak different vocabulary. If you go to the 5G ACIA meetings, you see one side is the traditional telecom players. On the other side is Bosch and Siemens and Rockwell Collins. we don't seem to, I mean, at the beginning, we actually got a lot better. At the beginning, we almost, like, one is speaking Chinese and one is speaking English. If we don't have a common language, we're going to have a hard time. I'm encouraged because we're now seeing a little bit more and more that common language. Like if you go to our booth, we have a smart factory running on a private 5G network. We have a frictionless retail experience. All of that started coming together. That's why I can confidently say that we're not overhyped. We're on the way there to scale deployment, but we certainly are on the right track. We just need to get the market settled down, less chaotic, and some of the acquisition that just happened, HP buying Ethernet, it's actually a positive sign. Right?
Yeah, it's absolutely positive signs, and we're getting there. And I mean, from my side, the confusion in the market is actually quite fun because I'm analyzing the market, and that keeps things interesting. Bit of a selfish reason. But if we then, okay, everything is ready, it's a big opportunity. I still see some potential challenges, and something is like replicability and scalability of the solution, something you guys started already touching on. So what I would like, guys, you to ask now is that how can we achieve that scalability? We talk a lot about trials, POCs. We talk about maybe small deployments. So how can we scale the market? And potentially related with this, on the other side, the other face of the coin, what is missing to really achieve that opportunity? Shade, start with you.
I think let's start with what's missing. And it's a spectrum of things. I think starting with devices, we're just beginning to see devices come to the market. And these are, I'm not just talking about phones, I'm talking about cameras, other devices that support 5G natively. So it's not going through a cradle point gateway, it's directly connecting to the network. We're just beginning to see those make it to the market. Zebra is a great example. They're beginning to ship CBRS-based not only terminals, but also scanners and other devices that operations uses, whether it's in a retail company or inside a warehouse. So those will help. So that's one dimension. The second part is spectrum. I think there's still some challenges associated even with CBRS in the US. It's not exactly conducive towards high-performing networks. Yeah, you can get CBRS to support 5G speeds, but it's still challenging, right? So you have to go get licensed spectrum from one of the service providers. And if you go outside of US, there's regulators still haven't appropriated spectrum directly to the enterprise. So we need to get that going as well. The third thing I think is around management and the simplicity needed, to your point, of managing a complex network. Yes, that's the vision. 5G will ultimately work like your Wi-Fi, but we're not there yet. Yeah. I think that's still a long way to go, and that gives managed services providers like us a reason to exist.
Perfect. So there are a few things that are still working on, and I like the debate about spectrum, because when I look at the market, I consistently see that whenever the regulator liberalizes spectrum, that's when the market really starts. And I hope telcos are not going to hate me for saying that, but they have been blocking this market for some time. And Divya, from your point of view, what is missing for really getting the scalability? What would you say is the key challenge?
Yeah, I think Shahid has covered it rightly, that spectrum allocation is kind of, we start from there. We have seen in Europe, right, we have Germany, France, UK has also come up now, Sweden, Finland is there, Croatia is there as well. But we are looking into other markets where the spectrum is kind of being allocated. So I think the governments and the regulators have a critical role to play to make sure that this is a success, right? And it's time now to do it and do it right. Devices is definitely a kind of a question, right, in the massive communications and the massive IoT side. We look forward to have the module makers to come up with 5G-enabled devices. We are looking forward to help them. We are in discussions with them and asking them to trial in our labs. So we have a lab setup where we ask them to make sure that we can provide them and show what the use cases are, what we learn in the industry. And it is also about sharing knowledge. I think that's also kind of a thing that every geography is having an implementation. In the US, it's CBRS, while in Europe, it's something else. So the spectrums are different there as well, the frequency that is being allocated. But in my opinion, it is also about sharing knowledge across the board, across geographies. We can learn from each other, and we can do it together. And it's also about the mindset, right? We have to make sure we are not only trying to upgrade the technology, but we bring in use cases to use that technology, and it should become an enabler, right? Value enabler as such in the future and going forward, right, for the next generations.
And like you touched on the fragmentation piece, different type of spectrum. That is, again, role as devil's advocate. That is a key challenge because fragmentation means that the opportunity cannot scale that easily. A lot of companies will struggle to adapt to the fragmentation. And it's not only spectrum, but regulation in general, and different verticals having different needs and technologies. Caroline, from your point of view, can we accelerate this market? Is this something that we're ready to do? And do you agree with challenges in terms of devices and spectrum, or you're a bit more optimistic?
No, I agree with what Shahar said, and we need to. US is a good example. CBRS is not the end-all be-all. We need FCC to issue private spectrum. It's a shame they haven't done that. With all the talks about moving onshore, the manufacturing, I think it's high time they do that. So I am on the board of CTIA in Addis. We will ask for this kind of lobbying for this. Just looking at what's happening in Germany, Japan, there's another one that has it, really makes it flourish. And it doesn't need the big C-band spectrum that the operator wants, but there needs to be a dedicated spectrum for the manufacturers and the agricultures. The fragmentation is a good one. Radio is, people haven't mentioned radio, but radio is a challenge. When you fragment too much, and it's a chicken and egg thing, do you make a 44R for a particular band before the demand arises? People make decisions based on opportunities. If you don't show the opportunity, they don't make that radio. Device, I think, has been addressed of. I'm really grateful for the ecosystem partner to do this. The other thing is the government investment. When I started this business to incubate the private networks, we got a jump start, believe it or not, during the pandemic. With the government funding, the first one to go was actually education. When our children were stuck at home and learning, and there's areas in the U.S. you think they are great, it's the United States, first world, but even the capital of the California state, Sacramento, their pockets simply do not have connectivity rich enough for our children to learn. So alongside with Amazon Web Services, we put in a private network connecting the schools to the surrounding housing projects, allow them to learn. So they started a whole momentum of funding from the government, enabling this for the education. The second one was agriculture, precision agriculture. Remember when we had a supply chain issue? Eggs price was going through the roof, the flour price would go through the roof. So we did that together with the government, put in precision agriculture in North Dakota, which is the breadbasket of the United States. Also the infrastructure bill that President Biden signed allow us to put in smart ports inland on the actual marine ports to modernize tracking who's shipping what, so goods don't get spoiled, and security, want to know what's being shipped. Government funding is not to be neglected. They need to come in and get started, get this business started, and then the rest, the private network, private business will take up the slack.
So key role for regulators. So if there is any regulator in the audience, hopefully, they
Spectrum, please.
spectrum and some financing to jumpstart the market. And I also really like your comment about the education, because that has been one of the leading verticals in the US. And it starts with a basic need, which is that of connectivity. And I think that a lot of times in this market, companies are a little bit too obsessed about drones rather than thinking that actually just need that reliable connectivity to get started. Drones will be in the future, but for now, you need something that really gets you started, and it could be something quite simple.
I call them meat and potato use cases.
Yes, and it makes sense. You need that, right? Before moving more fancy things. Now, one more round of questions for you guys, and then we can close this up. If you're thinking about 2023, what is the key priority that you guys have for the year? What do you really want to accomplish? And maybe what will we be speaking about next year at MWC 24? Pete?
Definitely, hopefully, we won't be talking about whether it's real or not or overhyped. I think we'll be hopefully talking about how do we address operational challenges of managing a private network. We'll have some CIOs here talking about their experiences. So I think I'm hopeful. Look, I don't think 5G is a technology looking for a solution. I think we've passed that, and I'm hopeful that spectrum, regulators, even funding. We talked about cities trying to fill the digital divide gap with providing adequate broadband to impoverished, underserved broadband communities. I mean, those are all real problems, and I think we're going to see a lot of case studies, hopefully, remainder of 2023.
Okay, fantastic. So, hopefully next year, and that's a suggestion for, our colleagues at GSMA, getting some enterprises and talking about, we deployed, this is the result, this is why other people should do it. Divya, from your point of view, what is your priority for the rest of the year? And what do you want to talk, about private networks next year?
Yeah, so for 2023, our priorities are digital transformation, helping our enterprise customers in their journey. So we are playing a role in the collaboration side. We are playing a role in the private network side. We want to bring it together. We are working on the APIs, right, to publish our APIs towards the market to make sure that the system integrators and hyperscalers, we work together with them to provide them an open ecosystem for the roaming capabilities that we offer. So that's kind of our, the offering that we are enhancing, and at the same time, we are talking on the use cases, trying to implement it. We are working on a couple of projects where we are in discussions and figuring out how to do it and implement it in real, the productized versions in the market, right? So that's kind of our priority for 2023. In 2024, I would love to be in a panel where I can talk about 5 vertical use cases that we have implemented in the market. I would love to share with you the challenges that they bring, right? I mean, I think that's what we should share, yeah. and how to overcome and what to do and what not to do. How can we make it better?
Absolutely, and some of the challenges may be very, very, very unexpected. When you actually start deploying the technology in a new environment that you didn't know, and you find out that there are a lot of different moving things that need to align. Caroline, from your point of view, priority for the year, and then next year, what will be different?
Well, it's a P&L business now, so signing up contracts. But all jokes aside, there are a couple of focuses. Number one is to sign up partnerships. We're very grateful that Shahid gave us opportunity. We have agreement with NTT Global to go to market together. SI is extremely important for this business. We also announced partnership with AWS. We recently just announced here in Mobile Congress with Cisco. We also work with Nokia, Ericsson, and so on. So it really does needs multiple partners to put that together. That's one. The second one is application developers. We need to attract them. You can't just be 2 people writing things on 5G for private networks. We need 200 people to write it. So a couple of years ago, Intel was one of the founding partners of something called 5G Open Innovation Lab in Seattle. We co-founded with T-Mobile, Microsoft, Amdocs, VMware, Dell, and Accenture. So we did it together really for two things. Make sure that the startups or early or mid-age startup does not die the premature death. We provide technology help, and I've committed to consume 25% of each cohort. We run cohort through 2 to 3 times a year. Work with them on technology side. There's also a sidecar investment fund from different VCs to come in. They need money. We need to put them to use and shepherd this new ISP to come in, develop applications on 5G network for enterprises. So if we've done this right, I think next year when we come back, like I said, there will be a couple of CIOs sitting here, and we'll be in the background. We'll be like, yay, and they'll be talking about how great a network run on Intel, put together by NTT Global, and with Divya's company making sure that it can roam globally. I think that would be ideal. If we just still the three of us talking here, I think we're going to have a problem.
That won't be success.
Well, I completely agree. Yeah, we need to be moving to the next stage. So from, us talking to actually having the enterprise coming here and sharing on stage what they did, what are the results, and why this is such an important technology. At the end of the day, when you're selling a product, having the customer, telling other customers, look, this is the real deal. This is the key product. That's why I bought it. Is always much more compelling than having the seller saying, okay, you need to buy this. Now, I know no one asked me, but I'm an analyst, so we do like to talk. From my point of view, what I want to see next year is more results, a more practical approach from a lot of players into the market. So again, focus on the key use cases, clear market segmentation, vertical segmentation, and a clear go-to-market strategy from a lot of players. Currently, a lot of people are just trying to get a little bit of everything at the moment, and there needs to be focus to drive this market. Now, we have 1 minute left, so I think we can pretty much wrap this panel up, and I just want to thank you very much, all of you, for some great insights. And please, audience, thank you very much for listening, and join me in a round of applause from our panelists.